We are learning the laws of shechita, slaughtering an animal, the proper way to do it, that it doesn't become what we call a nevela. It doesn't become a forbidden carcass of an animal. And today we learn in chapter 3, halacha number 1, there are 5 factors that disqualify ritual slaughter. And our fundamental, the laws of shechita are to guard against each of these factors. They are shia, derisa, chalada, agrama, and ikur. Okay, what is meant by the word shia? A person began to slaughter and lift up his hand before he completed the slaughter and waited. Whether he did so inadvertently, intentionally, or because of forces beyond his control, the following rules apply. If he or another person completed the slaughter, right? Okay, if he waited the amount of time that it would take to lift up the animal, cause it to lie down and slaughter it, his slaughter is not acceptable. If he waited less than that time, of amount of time, his slaughter is acceptable. As everything in Torah, there's a time element, right? So what is that time element? What it would take to lift up that animal, to lie it down and slaughter it. So I'm not exactly certain in how long that means. Doesn't say over here. So with regard to small domesticated animal, okay, so now he goes a sheep or a goat. So he goes now number 3. The measure of shia, right? Shia means the waiting time. Now that you started the process, but you didn't finish it properly, right? Of course, the proper way is to do it all in one, in one moment, in one time. Obviously, that is the appropriate, the best way to do it. But if for whatever reason, inadvertently, as we said, or willfully so, or it was beyond your control, whatever, it's irrelevant, right? The parameter to the law is what's important here. So a small domesticated, the amount of shia is the amount of time it would be take to lift up the animal, cause it to lie down and slaughter it, right? So, in other words, that's going to be a shorter amount of time than would be as he continues with regard to a large domesticated animal like a cow, right? The measure of shia is the amount of time it would take to lift it up an animal, cause it to lie down and slaughter it, which would be more time, of course, right? It's larger, so it's going to take, the time will be more. With regard to a fowl, the measure of shia is the amount of time it would take to lift up the small animal, right? The chicken, cause it to lie down and slaughter it. Okay. Each one of the will be different. Number 4, when a person cut the signs for a while, waited for a while, cut for a while, waited for a while until he concluded the slaughter without waiting the measure of disqualifies an animal at any one time, but over times he waited over the period equal to the measure of shia, there's an unresolved doubt whether the animal is considered a nevela. Right? So the whole issue over here is that it shouldn't be a nevela, which means improperly slaughtered. So if you started and waited, continued, less than the time, right? Each time was less than the time, but altogether, collectively, it was more than the time. Again, who would be doing this? No one's doing this, but it's giving us the parameter of the law, right? So of what's considered proper or improper. So here it would be, there's an unresolved doubt because because it was movement in between, does that stop and therefore start the clock again? Or is it just because you didn't finish it? Do you look at it, what you're supposed to finish, or do you look at each individual, segment as its own? Right. That's what the issue is over here, and there's an unresolved doubt on how to look at that. Similarly, if he waited the amount of time that it takes to lift up the animal, cause it to lie down, and cut only a portion of the sides, but not to slaughter it entirely, there's an unresolved doubt whether the animal is considered unavailable. Similar idea. Okay, number 5. If he slaughtered the majority of one of the signs for the fowl and the majority of both signs for an animal, the slaughter is permitted even if he waited half the day and then returned to finish cutting the sides. For since the minimum measure of slaughter has met, it is as if he is cutting a slaughtered meat. So the law is like this: when it comes to slaughtering a fowl, there is the food pipe and the windpipe, right? And the law is that for fowl, you have to cut one of them entirely, right? Right, one of them entirely. Good morning, good morning. Right. Is Mendel here? Okay. Hello. So one of them entirely, or sorry, half of one entirely, right? You're supposed to cut both of them, right? Again, the proper way is when you're slaughtering, you have to cut both the food and the windpipe totally, right? But minimally, what you have to do to be considered kosher is that you cut half of one, the majority, not half, the majority of one of the two, right? 50% plus one of one of them.
So one of them should be cut.
No, 50% plus one of one for fowl. For an animal, it's 50% plus one of both of them. Okay, you need more. Now, what happens if you did 50% plus one, and then you came back later? Right, you did it. You came back later and you finished slaughtering the rest of it. Again, it's irrelevant. Why would you do that? Someone, by the way, would do that. No one would want to have that person as a slaughterer, right? So we're not questioning motives here. That's irrelevant. What's important over here is just the parameter of the law. So if he came back, later on in the day, then all it is considered is if he slaughtered already a piece of meat. Why? Because it was already considered kosher, right? Not the prime way kosher, right? But it was kosher. If one cuts half or less of the windpipe and waits the extended period, he may return and complete the slaughter. The previous acts are of no consequence. Wow. Because until I'm not exactly clear on this, because if he cuts less than half, then it's not considered treif. So it's as if he did nothing, and therefore he can come back and cut the rest. If, however, he cut a majority of the animal's windpipe or perforated the gullet even slightly and then waited a disqualifying measure, the slaughter is unacceptable. So here we're talking about an animal, right? Not a fowl. So an animal, he did the majority of one, but not the majority of two, right? So therefore, the majority of one would be considered you made this animal treif because it will not be able to live out for the 12 months. Now, be quite frank, I don't know how is it, if it was less than a majority, you would be able to. I don't, whatever, but I don't understand that. I mean, not that I understand animals in any case, right? So, but the point is, it would be disqualified the slaughter because now you're slaughtering an animal that's treif. This applies whether he returned and completed cutting and began or slaughtering the animal entirely in a different place. The rationale is that when the majority of the windpipe is slit, or the gullet or either of an animal or a fowl is perforated, even slightly, the animal is comparable to a nevela. Ritual slaughter is not effective, as will be explained. So it's like you slaughtered something that's, here it says nevela, not treif. Not certain what that means. And we're going to see more on halacha 19 on that. Okay. It is thus explained that for you, that the concept of Shia does not exist with regard to a windpipe of a fowl at all. For if he slit the majority of the windpipe and waited, he's already completed the slaughter, right, of the fowl. When he goes back and completes it, as if he's cutting meat, like we said, because you did the majority already. So it's like you slaughtered it. If he slit less than half of the windpipe waited, he may return and complete the slaughter whenever he desires, for he is not disqualified as an avela unless the majority of the windpipe has been cut. Right, and when the majority is, but that's considered what? Okay, I don't know what the last word says. Majority of the windpipe has been cut. Because we just said that that's kosher. Okay. The following rules apply when one slaughtered a fowl and waited, but does not know whether the gullet was perforated or not. Because if perforated, the slaughter is unacceptable. And if it wasn't perforated, you know, uh, be so good now to go to a slaughterhouse and to watch how this is done so we could understand this. He should return and cut the windpipe alone in another place. Let the fowl be until it dies, and then check the gullet from the inside to see if it was perforated. Because if it's perforated, so then it's not valid. If a drop of blood was not found on it, it is apparent that it was not perforated and it's acceptable. So if you found blood on the gullet, so that would be a sign that it was perforated and therefore not kosher. So we did now Shia, what it means waiting, right? Waiting meaning you took the knife and you slaughtered, but you didn't continue finish the job entirely. What is ben bachalada? For example, one inserted a knife between one sign and another, whether one slits from the upper sign above or cuts from the lower sign below in a matter of ritual slaughter, the slaughter is unacceptable. Oh man, I need pictures for this. Um, so it means when you hide the knife when slaughtering it, inserting it in a way that the blade is not open to the eye, meaning the proper way to slaughter is to hold the animal or the fowl with its neck upward and draw the knife back and forth across the neck. But here it was inserted between one sign and another. I can't be quite frank. I don't know how to picture this. Do you picture how this is done? You need a video for this. If he inserted the knife beneath the animal's skin and slid both the signs in the ordinary fashion, hid the knife under tangled wool, or spread the cloth over the knife and the neck and slaughtered it under the cloth, since the knife was not openly revealed, there's an unresolved doubt whether the animal is considered an avela. Somebody, if the slaughter less than half of the signs of with chalada, completed the slaughter without chalada, unresolved doubt whether the animal is considered an avela. Yeah, not clear. Okay, what is considered derisa? For example, one strikes the neck with a knife as one strikes with a sword, cutting the signs at one time without passing the knife back and forth. So you're supposed to go back and forth like this, right? Not like a sword, like to chop. You're not chopping, right? So derisa means that you're chopping, right? You're pressing down, cutting downward as one cuts radishes or squash until he cuts the signs of the slaughter is unacceptable, right? Like you take a big cleaver and you put you put it on the squash and you push down on it, right? That's not it. You're supposed to go back and forth to slaughter, right? Not push down on it. What is meant by hagrama? This refers to one who slaughters at the high point of the windpipe, where it's not fit to slaughter. Right? So it's the high point of the windpipe. There are two nods like kernels of wheat at the top of the windpipe and a large ring. So there you can't do it. The following rules apply if one slaughtered it in the midst of these kernels. If he left even the slightest portion of them intact above the place of slaughter, it is acceptable. If he slaughtered from the slanted cap of the windpipe or lower, this is within the place of his fit for ritual slaughter. If, however, he did not leave any portion of them intact, but instead cut above them, this is considered as being slaughtered with a grama, and it is unacceptable. So it's, in an acceptable place, not in this instance too high. Okay. I'm going to have to stop over here. I'll have to continue, but I can't.
Shabbos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good
AT law.
job.